Hi there, my name is Lamont. This video is a explanation of my revelation that Jackie Kennedy killed John Fitzgerald Kennedy, her husband. That's a shocking revelation. So it's time to really bring out my revelation of that, because last year I uploaded a couple of videos on this, and the amount of response that is really from people who are really shocked by that. They call you various names, they say that you're sick, they say that you've gone off the deep end, or you're someone who's just, got wrong research, or you're a conspiracy theorist. The list goes on and on and on. I understand that reaction. That's exactly why they use Jackie. Now, first of all, I'm going to explain that when people talk about the Kennedy assassination, of course, we must remember that it was a whole year before the Zaburga film was brought out. If they brought that out instantly, people would have automatically seen the truth in plain sight, that Jackie, in fact, killed John F. Kennedy. Now, we have to go into an area of history that's not exposed enough as far as I'm concerned, and that is the Jesuit connection. Let's begin with Joe Kennedy. Joe Kennedy, we know, was a bootlegger who worked with Al Capone and the Mafia. That's something that is well known to a lot of researchers. But he was a Knight of Malta. A Knight of Malta, and once an ambassador to the United Kingdom. And also his son, John F. Kennedy, John Fitzgerald Kennedy, we know was a senator, and at that time he met Jackie Kennedy, who worked for the CIA. A lot of information for that on the internet. But I want to go into the Jesuits here. John F. Kennedy was a Knight of Columbus. That's the only reason they're positioned, as in John F. Kennedy and Robert Kennedy, into the White House. But from the very beginning, there was a lot of problems with John F. Kennedy. And the problems were that John F. Kennedy was really trying to limit the power of the CIA. And we know that when people make videos on John F. Kennedy, they always talk about Cuba and Castro, and how Kennedy called off the Bay of Pigs invasion, and somehow the CIA operatives on the ground were actually instrumental in staging the assassination at Dealey Plaza, for instance, through the Mafia, or through the Cubans or the Russians. The list is endless. But we'll have to remember that Jackie Kennedy was also trained by the Jesuits, as was John F. Kennedy. The whole Kennedy family, in fact, were under Jesuit control their whole lives, and had father confessors. Now, with Jackie Kennedy, we'll have to look into her background. And we also see that with Jackie, John F. Kennedy had various affairs, and there was a lot of scandals there that were going to come out, and they were going to get divorced. And so she connected with Onassis. Onassis was really running drugs with the CIA. And people don't look at Onassis enough. He's under the radar. And Onassis really was connected to the papacy and the CIA primarily. And Jackie Kennedy went for a whole month before Dallas to see Onassis. And Onassis used to work with Joseph Kennedy in the bootlegging business with the Mafia. That history goes a long way back. But there we find Jackie Kennedy. What was she doing with Onassis for 1 month? And she'd never actually been in the presidential limousine in any city, only Dallas. That was the first time she'd done that. Now, she came back after a month, and then she was there at Dealey Plaza. And there's so much disinformation and diversion on this that it took a whole year for the CFR and the CIA and the NSA to really brainwash the American people into Oswald being a Russian double agent, and Ruby obviously working for the CIA and his connection to Nixon. All of this came out after a whole year. And of course people say that there was, an assassin in the back of the limousine, or the driver shot Kennedy, and behind the grassy knoll. That list goes on and on also. Okay, to get to my point. The point is this. When you look at the Kennedy assassination, it's very clear that at that time in history, as today, the Jesuits of Rome control Washington and every administration. That can be proven. That's not a theory. The truth is on the internet. All you have to do is look at the Knights of Malta. And you will see that overseeing the Knights of Malta in America was Cardinal Spellman, and he was the one that really controlled Nixon and Kennedy and Lyndon B. Johnson. Lyndon B. Johnson graduated from Jesuit Georgetown University. That's Georgetown University, and he had a law school degree from there. And you find also at that time in history that the Knights of Malta were really in control of the American government. That's the CIA, the Pentagon, Chief of Staffs. The whole American government was ruled by the Knights of Malta. That's the Sovereign Military Order of St. John of Jerusalem, otherwise known as the Knights of Malta, because they're based at the island of Malta. And so this is the power structure in America during the time of President Kennedy. You had the Black Pope, and you had the Jesuit provincials that controlled Georgetown, Fordham, Marquis, Xavier, Gonzaga, all of these Jesuit universities. They're the ones that positioned the politicians into the White House. Kennedy had a problem. And the problem with Kennedy was he positioned his brother John F. Kennedy to go against the CIA, in the sense that he wanted to direct the CIA and he wanted to oversee the CIA. And after the Bay of Pigs, what happened was Kennedy actually, John F. Kennedy that is, fired Allen Dulles. Allen Dulles was a 33rd degree Mason and Knight of Malta, and was considered untouchable within that system. So that was the beginning of the end for John F. Kennedy, really. And he opposed the war in Vietnam, which is Spelly's War, Cardinal Spellman's War of New York. The Cardinal of New York, otherwise known as the military vicar. And so when you look at American politics, you have to understand that when people bring out this revelation that Jackie killed John F. Kennedy, remember that after the assassination, after a couple of years, she went to Onassis and married Onassis, who's under papal control, of course. In fact, the one world government today is ruled by Vatican Knights. That's the power structure that rules the royal bloodlines, the black nobility, and of course presidents and prime ministers. There's many of these Vatican knighthoods, I haven't got time to name them all, but history repeats itself. All you have to do is look at Israel. Look at Shimon Peres. He was trained by the Jesuits in Poland and knighted by Queen Elizabeth II into the Order of St. Michael and St. George. It doesn't stop there. You look at Herman von Rompuy, the President of the European Union, trained by the Jesuits. The European Commissioner, Barroso, Knight of Malta. This is the power structure. Why did Jackie do this? Number of reasons. It was going to happen anyway. She was already connected in a relationship with Onassis. It was promised to her, I do believe, that she could walk away with a clean slate with Onassis. And the truth would be buried up because of the media propaganda and disinformation before the Zeebrugge film was released, and of course through the Warren Commission's cover-up. John Fitzgerald Kennedy, the President of the United States, was a threat to the Vatican. He defied the temporal power of the Pope. That's why he was assassinated. Why bring this out now, people say? Why go into this? Well, because it's the same people that brought down the Twin Towers. It's the same people behind 9/11 and Waco and the Oklahoma bombing. It's the Jesuits of Rome. There's a lot of great researchers out there that have researched this conspiracy. For instance, Eric John Phelps brought out his book, Vatican Assassins Wounded in the House of My Friends. You can find that book and you can buy that book or download it off the internet. This is the truth about the JFK assassination on Dealey Plaza. Wasn't the driver, wasn't people behind the grassy knoll. That was really created to deflect attention away from what happened in the limousine. Connolly's wife poured blood on his back, and really this happened within the limousine, and he gave the order, Connolly, to Jackie after she injected him with a dart, and from that moment he was completely paralyzed. It was a chemical dart, and it completely paralyzed John F. Kennedy. From the moment his hands touched his throat, that was it. He couldn't move. She pulled him down. You look clearly in the Zeebrugge film, when you have eyes to see. She pulled him down, fired under the left ear. The bullet exited on the right hand side of his skull. And she threw the weapon away outside the car to CIA agents that were filming this staged assassination by the CIA, and those films have never come out on the internet. This is the world government, ruled by Rome, and they believe they have the authority to assassinate heretical kings or rulers that defy the Pope. This is the real conspiracy. So really, Jackie Kennedy, also her connection to the Jesuits is so strong. I mean, she was trained by the Jesuits and christened in the Church of Xavier. Also, she was buried at the Church of Xavier. She had a Catholic priest who was a confessor. So did Joseph P. Kennedy, and so did John Kennedy. So did Bobby Kennedy. They were all Jesuit trained. If you're new to this, what I suggest is, after the video, go on the description section of the video and click on the links. Look at these links. Do your own research. This is not a theory. This is not a theory. People also use the fact that, let me say this, people say the Jews rule the New World Order. Well, that's just not correct. If you look at Lyndon B. Johnson, of course, you know, him and his wife had Jewish, connections. So did Jackie, of course. So people automatically presume that it's a Zionist conspiracy. But the real power over Washington was Cardinal Spellman, and it was the Jesuit provincials. And it doesn't matter where you look in American politics and history. Even J. Edgar Hoover, he recruited many of his agents from Jesuit universities, like Marquis, like Fordham, like Georgetown. In fact, let's go to 9/11. Let's look at George Tenet. He graduated from Georgetown University, the very man that overseen 9/11, because he was a Knight of Malta, and a very high Jesuit graduate from Georgetown. Look at Obama today. Look at his staff and his administration, all these political advisors, all the advisors that, network between the Pentagon, the NSA, FBI. They're all from Jesuit universities, every single one of them. Who had the power to cover this up? The papacy. The black papacy. The black pope, the Jesuit general, and his provincials, and his cardinals, and bishops. They're the ones that destroyed Kennedy and assassinated him, really. Jackie merely pulled the trigger. And then she went to marry Onassis. And of course, when you look at this, there was a warning given to a lot of these people at the top. For instance, Onassis, his child was killed in an airplane. Jackie Kennedy, his son John, was killed in an airplane. They do this as a warning, of course. These are evil men, these are wicked men that rule our governments. They are the Jesuits of Rome. And so, when you bring out revelation that Jackie killed John F. Kennedy, it's just another way of exposing who's at the top, who's in control. And you can do that very clearly when you look at Joe Kennedy, John Fitzgerald Kennedy, Bobby Kennedy, and even Nixon, and even Lyndon B. Johnson. These men had no choice but to go along with the agenda of Rome, or they'd be taken out, they'd be killed. This is the world government, ruled by Rome, ruled by the great whore of Revelation, that great city that reigns over the kings of the earth. And let me tell you, they will destroy their presidents without a second thought if they defy the temporal power of the Pope. Exactly the same with Mussolini. Mussolini was brought to power through the Jesuits of Rome to sign his Concordat and restore the political temporal power of the Vatican City. Exactly the same with Hitler. He was overseen by von Papen and Cardinal Pacelli. He was merely a tool of the Jesuit order. Same with Stalin, and communism, and fascism, and Ivryism. Okay, thank you for watching the video. I hope this gives some revelation to people so they can do their own research. As I've said, go to the links and go to the websites and do your own research. Jackie Kennedy was surely the assassin on that day at Dealey Plaza. No one else.